views. Now, joining me right now is Air Vice Marshal Suryakant Chafekar. He is a retired Indian Air Force officer who served as the Senior Air and Administration Staff Officer, Maintenance Command. He is also a Shaurya Chakra awardee. Thank you, Air Vice Marshal Suryakant, for joining me on the telecast. And what are your expectations for the defence sector from the union budget?
To tell you about the expectations, firstly, we have to know what was the budget last year. And if you have a look, you'll see that it was around 6.22 lakh crores. And this was, mind you, an increase of around 4.8% from the previous, that is 22-23. So, if you look at these figures, and then you look at the GDP or the growth rate, as they call it, when the budget was increased by 4.79%, that time the growth rate was 8.2. And now the predicted growth rate is around 6.4. So the answer lies in the figure. There is not going to be a substantial increase for sure from the last budget.
We have seen the Pralay mission on display. Indonesia is interested in buying BrahMos from us. Do you think government's focus on indigenous production is paying off?
Talking about indigenous production, when you know the increase of 4.8 was there in the defense budget in 24-25, it was clearly indicated that in capital, the percentage was around 27.66. Out of this capital, almost 75% was said to be for domestic only. That means we were aiming of the entire budget of capital to be looked after by domestic, almost 75%. So that's a huge amount. Now you just gave a example of Indonesia wanting BrahMos. That is, if you see, is quite a kind of a one of the things. So the concentration is going to be on self-reliance or make in India. However, how do we fill up the backlog, especially for Indian Air Force, is going to be a major question.
Right. Talking about Atmanirbharta in defense, Make in India initiative, how far are we lagging behind in building our R&D capacities to become the global hub of defense?
Okay, in generic, I won't talk about it, but definitely as far as the aviation sector is concerned, we can always talk. You know, we are doing very well in space technology as well as missile technology, indigenous activity. That means make in India. However, in production of aircraft or aircraft engines or aircraft spares, we have not been doing well. And that, the very reason for this is need to be understood. And that is, when you make an aircraft, you are not going to look only for your indigenous market. Because business-wise, it is not sustainable. What is sustainable is you make for yourself, that is for your country, and you should always be ready for export. And if you want to export, the first and topmost priority for any buyer is going to be the quality, and number two is going to be the price. Price-wise, we are much well off. Whatever indigenous product we are making, like a few helicopters we have made and sold to a few countries, missiles we are making, we are quite okay. We are very competitive, you can say, as compared to European nations and US. However, the quality part needs to be looked into, and the answer lies in research.
We have seen that China in the past has substantially increased its defense budget. Russia has done the same. Now, as we spoke about how the defense budget is allocated mostly to pay pensions and salaries, how will we bring the focus of defense modernization?
This debate has been on, and the information that most of the budget goes in pension is not exactly the correct one, because it is a defense budget. And let me tell you a very surprising fact, that a lot of civilian defense employees are being paid through this same budget, and their percentage is pretty high. It is almost around 60%. So the civilians working in defense are also part of this pension. And now if you want to go by figures, I can quote and tell you, if the capital for last year was 27 point around 6869, the revenue was 14, and the pension was 22.7. Okay. See, in other sectors also you will find the same way. For Indian Air Force, I can very confidently quote that whatever budget is allocated to the Indian Air Force, definitely we are using the major chunk in capital. Because we have to deal with modernized weapons, equipment and aircrafts, and that costs money. Therefore, for Indian Air Force, I can assure you that capital is much higher than revenue and even the pension. Pension issues you cannot sort out like this unless you have to sort out the part which I told you, which has never reflected in any discussions, that the pensions include pension to the civilians who are working in defense. So that should be catered from somewhere else. Otherwise, in the total figure, it shows against defense, and that is kind of a misleading concept.
Thank you so much, Air Vice Marshal Suryakant Chafekar, for joining me on the telecast and sharing your views. On that note, I slip into a short break. Thanks for watching NewsX.